Hi there and welcome to My Week. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you're enjoying the holiday week with family and friends. That's what Stephen and Nolan are doing. So I thought we'd bring you a bit of a different show tonight. It's a collection of some of my favorite interviews from the Mackinac Policy Conference. We'll start off with an in-depth conversation with the state superintendent, Brian Whiston. Then the Senate Majority Leader and the House Minority Leader say what they really think of the idea of a part-time legislature. Plus, you'll hear about some new plans for the Detroit Riverfront from Conservancy CEO Mark Wallace, and also the new plans for one business owner when she decides to take a chance on retail. I'll introduce you to Rachel Lutz. And we'll wrap it all up with a conversation with the new Detroit Public Schools Superintendent, Dr. Nikolai Vitti. That is all coming up for you. But we do start with what is going to be the biggest issue to tackle statewide this year, and it is education. Namely, how do we improve dismal test scores and the fact that we've fallen into the lower third nationwide? There's a lot that comes into play. Here's Superintendent Brian Whiston.
We're somewhere in the bottom third of states in terms of performance, and we have to really do better. We owe it to our students, our taxpayers to do better. So where are we starting to see some improvement? We're starting to see improvement in some reading and writing scores, starting to see improvement in terms of multiple pathways for students. Very excited working with the governor on some career tech options for students. We've gone from a handful of programs to more than 100 programs where kids are going to high school and getting college credit, graduating with up to a 2-year college degree as part of their high school experience. So we're starting to see improvement across the board and really going to deeper learning in the classroom. You have districts going to competency-based education, which really looks at, let's not talk about what age a kid is or what grade they are, but where are they at academically?
Kind of meet them at their level.
Yeah, right, and let them progress either slower or faster than what we would say in a traditional sense. And let students drive that, not us.
I want to talk a little bit about teachers and teacher training and of course, curriculum and what is going on in the classroom. But first off, I want to take a look at something that you tackled in the last couple of months, and it's the possible closure of schools. So the School Reform Office, they're the ones that say, well, you've been in the bottom for a while, you could be up for a closure of your school. The Department of Education then came in and said, let's work out a deal to see if these schools can stay open. What were some of those plans, and what did they entail, and what kind of solutions can you start to give these schools or benchmarks to say, gosh, you've got to hit those or else we've got to come up with another solution?
It's very excited working with the governor and the State Board of Education. We came up with what we call a partnership agreement. And in these partnership agreements, school districts have to meet certain standards at 18 months and 36 months. And those standards are different for each school depending on where they're performing at. But their academic goals, academic goals in reading, math, writing, those kinds of things. And they have to hit those benchmarks at 18 months or 36 months. And if they don't hit them at 18 months, then we're going to talk to them about the local ISD playing more of a role in the schools and or closure of the schools and reconstitution. Now, the partnership agreement is exciting because what it says is, local district, you own the problem, you own your test scores, but we're going to come to the table with a bunch of partners from the business community, from higher education, from nonprofits, boys, girls clubs, all sorts of nonprofits, and we're going to say, what are your 5 to 10 goals that you're going to agree to in this partnership agreement, and what can these different partners bring to the table to help you accomplish these goals? What you see in Detroit and many struggling districts is a lack of focus, where everybody's got an idea on how to fix education, so you're doing 10, 20, 30 things to try to improve education. And we want them to focus, with laser focus on 5 or 6 things they can do to improve reading and math across the grade levels. And so the partnership deal brings these nonprofits, colleges, businesses to the table to say, we're going to help the school districts reach these goals. But if they don't, we understand that there's going to be a next level of accountability. So I thank the governor for giving us a chance to create these partnership agreements.
So when you say the next level of accountability, that would eventually be closure?
It could be. It could be in 18 months if a school isn't meeting the standards. We would say you need to close the school. If the school needs to be open based on student population location, they could reopen it, but it'd have to be a new school, new staff, new administration, and a new philosophy. So, for example, if it's a high school and it's a traditional high school, they would have to close, but they could open up as an IB school. They could open up as a 5-year plan where kids go to high school and college at the same time. If it's an elementary, it could be a theme school, a music art school. It could be those kinds of different options.
So they obviously have to be measured somewhere at the end of the day.
Yes.
Is that with the M-STEP? Is that the benchmark measurement now?
So we're using a couple different benchmarks. A lot of districts use what is these benchmark assessments called either iReady or NWEA, and that shows year-to-year growth. So I started third grade, where was I at? I ended third grade, where was I at? Did I get that year's worth of growth or more? And in these struggling school districts, we need to see more than a year's worth of growth in the students. So that's one measure, their local NWEA or iReady measure. Another measure is the M-STEP test. That's the second measure. And the third one is the ACT assessment. So we're using multiple assessments because we understand students can struggle in taking assessments, and we want to be fair, but we want to hold the kids to high standards.
Hold the kids to high standards, but in turn that's also holding the teacher to a high standards. Let's talk about teachers, the kind of training that you believe that they're getting right now. Are we training our teachers the best possibly that we can? And are we giving them a chance to succeed and giving them the support they need instead of walking into a classroom with 35 first graders and saying, you've got to make sure that all of these kids are able to read at that certain benchmark level by the end of the year. Good luck.
Right. Both the State Board's 10 and 10 plan and the Governor's 21st Century Education Commission call for changes in how we prepare teachers for success in the classroom. We really need to go to a more of a medical model, I like to say, where students in school who want to become teachers learn it in a classroom and then implement it right away instead of going through a class and then implementing it a year or 2 or 3 years later. So if they're learning how to teach kids to read, they'd learn that in their college course, and then they're immediately working in a school helping to input that learning that they got. So we're looking at making changes to more of a medical model. Secondly, we want to change so that when they graduate, they're one level of teacher and they can move up several steps to becoming a master teacher. And those things they would have to accomplish at each level to become that master teacher. And so we do need to make changes how we prepare. We know that we're heading into a teacher shortage. We have a lot less, about 50% less people going into education as a profession.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. One, I think education's been under attack for the last decade, so that's one reason. Second reason is pay, because we had a kind of a bad decade and schools had to cut. So there's a lot of school districts are hiring teachers at the 28 to 32,000 range. Why would someone want to graduate with a $100,000 debt and take a job that pays so little? I mean, all my kids were very blessed to go to college and graduate and start jobs in the 50, 60,000. So as people look at careers, I think the education's been under attack. Starting pay of teachers has been an issue. So I think we have to address and honor that and really bring the honor of once upon a time, a day, being a teacher was an honored profession, and we have to return to that.